It's the first thing many people think of when they wake up in the morning, and no matter how you take it, this cash crop is among the most important in the world. Over 2.25 billion cups of coffee are consumed daily all around the world, contributing to this $19.4 billion industry. It is responsible for the livelihoods of 125 million people, and there are millions of small producers all over the world, mostly in developing countries. Coffee culture has taken on a life of its own, and here in the US, many could not imagine a world without coffee. However, there is a threat lurking around coffee farms, which could alter the future of this beloved beverage forever. There are two main types of coffee produced, Arabica and Robusta. They're both different species, have different caffeine contents, grow at different elevations, and Arabica is typically more popular than Robusta. Many farmers choose to produce Arabica over Robusta due to its high price in the market and its superior taste. But studies have shown that both species are susceptible to the effects of climate change, and suitable land for growing coffee could decrease by 50% by the year 2050. Climate change is also aiding in the proliferation of one of coffee's worst enemies. It's a disease known as coffee leaf rust, caused by the fungus Hemileia vastatrix. It's a devastating disease that results in losses between 15 and 80% depending on the location, with worldwide loss estimated at 15%. Hemileia vastatrix is a basidiomycete. It has 3 known spore types. It's autoecious, meaning it infects a single host plant with no alternate hosts known. It's also cryptosexual, meaning that its sexual reproduction is hidden within the asexual spores, known as Uridinia spores. These are produced on Uridia and travel primarily through wind and water. The disease results in premature defoliation, which leads to a decreased capacity for photosynthesis. This means that impacts on yields can be quite severe and can even lead to the death of the tree. But where did coffee leaf rust come from? Although it was first spotted in East Africa in 1861, its most famous discovery was a few years later in 1867 on the island of Ceylon, now known as Sri Lanka. Ceylon was colonized by the Dutch in the early 17th century, and they began producing coffee there, as well as in Sumatra and Java, names now closely associated with coffee. Coffee was rising in popularity around Europe, and coffee houses served as places for people to discuss religion, philosophy, and politics. All this free thinking made the ruling class nervous, and moves were made to restrict the establishments. But the love and the social importance of coffee remained strong. The invasion of Ceylon led to the British capture of the colony in 1796. In 1825, they began to develop the land, and by 1870, Ceylon had become the world's greatest producer of coffee. 1867 was the fateful year coffee rust was spotted. Reverend M.J. Berkeley, an English cryptogamist and clergyman, detailed the fungus and published his work in the November 1869 edition of Gardener's Chronicle. About a decade passed and the disease showed no signs of stopping, and the Ceylon government appointed a young botanist by the name of Harry Marshall Ward to come up with a cure. He came up with a lime-sulfur mixture to prevent infection and warned farmers about coffee monocultures, but he was too late. The coffee industry went into total decline, forcing the British to start cultivating tea instead. In fact, it is said that this switch from planting coffee to tea in Ceylon is one of the reasons that tea is so intertwined with British culture. And what would we be without British tea elitism? Brazil is now the world's #1 producer of coffee and has been growing the crop since 1727, after seeds were smuggled out of French Guiana. The legend is that Francisco de Malo Paleta, a Portuguese sergeant, seduced the governor's wife and she gave him a bouquet with the seeds hidden inside. Today, farmers in Brazil produce a third of all coffee, and there are hundreds of thousands of farms throughout the country. Many farms are struggling dealing with coffee leaf rust, and increased temperatures and unpredictable rains exacerbated by climate change are making the work very stressful, and in some cases farmers are unable to sustain themselves. Organizations like the Federación de Cafeteros in Colombia have poured resources into finding effective treatments, such as fungicides, cultural controls, and resistant coffee cultivars. So while we shouldn't be hoarding beans just yet, focusing on mitigating climate change, continuing to research coffee leaf rust, and supporting small coffee farmers around the world is essential to the future of our favorite morning pick-me-up.